I never thought I'd find myself here. The years crept up on me faster than I expected, and now I stand at a crossroads I never prepared for. No pension, no savings, and the realization that I can't rely on my child to take care of me. It's a harsh reality, but it's mine, and I know I'm not alone. So many people push financial planning to the back of their minds, thinking there's always more time. I was one of them. Now, I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'll get by when I can no longer work. The thought of growing old without a safety net is terrifying. No pension, no savings, and no one to rely on. Just the weight of uncertainty pressing down with every passing day. The future looms like a storm cloud, and I find myself wondering how I will manage when my body slows down and my ability to work diminishes. I never imagined I'd be in this position, but life doesn't always go as planned. If you've ever worried about how you'll support yourself in old age, stick with me, because this is my reality, and maybe, just maybe, it's yours too. I remember being in my 20s, feeling invincible. Back then, retirement seemed like a distant dream, something to think about later. I worked hard, paid my bills, and lived my life. I wasn't reckless, but I wasn't careful either. I assumed that as long as I kept moving forward, everything would fall into place. My job wasn't one with a pension plan, but I thought I'd save eventually. The problem was, eventually never came. There was always an expense, always something more urgent. Rent, food, medical bills, car repairs. It felt like my paycheck disappeared before I even had a chance to think about the future. Then, life happened. Unexpected events drained what little I had managed to put aside. A job loss here, a medical emergency there, and suddenly, I was starting from zero again. I told myself I'd catch up, that there was still time, but time doesn't wait for anyone. I watched as colleagues talked about their 401ks and investments, but it felt like a foreign language to me. By the time I truly realized I needed to do something, I was already behind. For years, I worked jobs that barely paid enough to cover my basic needs. I wasn't lazy, I wasn't irresponsible, I just never made enough to get ahead. And as the years passed, my dreams of security in old age faded into the background, replaced by the daily struggle of surviving. It's a terrifying thing to realize that you're running out of time, that the future you once thought you had control over is slipping through your fingers like sand. I had one hope, my child. When I became a parent, I poured everything I had into raising them. I wanted them to have a better life than I did, to never struggle the way I had. I sacrificed, I worked extra hours, I went without so they could have more. And in my heart, I assumed that one day, when I was old, they would be there for me. But the world doesn't work that way. My child has their own life, their own struggles, and I refuse to be a burden. I see how hard they work just to stay afloat in today's economy. They don't have extra money to support me, nor should they have to. It hurts to admit that. Not because I feel entitled to their help, but because I always imagined growing old differently. I thought I would have a home filled with warmth, where family gathered and took care of each other. Instead, I look around and see a world where everyone is barely managing to keep their own heads above water. I don't blame my child. If anything, I blame myself for not planning better, for not finding a way to secure my own future so they wouldn't have to worry about me. I know some people rely on government programs, but the thought scares me. What if those benefits aren't enough? What if policies change? What if I get sick and need more care than I can afford? The uncertainty is paralyzing. I try not to let the fear consume me, but it's there, lurking in the background of every decision I make. I've started to think about how I can keep working as long as possible. Maybe I can take up part-time work, something that doesn't require too much physical strain. But what happens when my body refuses? I've seen it happen to others, strong, independent people who suddenly find themselves unable to work due to age or illness. I can't pretend I'll be the exception. Aging isn't something you notice right away. It sneaks up on you. At first, it's little things. An ache in your knees when you stand up too fast, getting tired a little sooner than you used to. But then one day, you wake up and realize you're not as strong as you once were. The energy you took for granted in your younger years starts to fade, and suddenly, working until the end of your life isn't an option. It's an impossibility. I think about cutting expenses, living as frugally as possible. But the truth is, I've already been doing that for years. There's only so much I can trim before there's nothing left to cut. I don't travel, I don't buy luxury items, and yet, even the basics feel like a stretch. Rent, utilities, food, everything costs more than it did just a few years ago, and it's only going to get worse. I wonder if I should move in with roommates, find a shared living situation with other seniors in the same boat. But is that really a solution? I've always been independent, and the idea of relying on strangers for my well-being is unsettling. Yet, I may have no choice. I replay my past decisions, wondering where I went wrong. Should I have been more frugal? Should I have taken that job with benefits instead of chasing passion projects that didn't pay well? Regret is a cruel companion, but it doesn't change reality. I can't go back and rewrite my financial history. I can only face what's ahead. Despite everything, I try to hold on to hope. Maybe I'll find a way to make things work. Maybe I'll stumble upon an opportunity that allows me to secure some form of stability. But hope isn't a strategy. And the more I think about the years ahead, the more I realize that aging in poverty isn't just a personal struggle. It's a growing crisis. I see others in the same position, people who work their whole lives only to find themselves struggling in their later years. Some turn to part-time jobs, others rely on food banks, and some, heartbreakingly, have nowhere to go. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I used to think that financial struggles in old age were rare, that only the reckless ended up in this situation. But now I know better. Life is unpredictable, and the safety nets we assume will catch us often have holes we don't see until it's too late. The truth is, I'm scared. I don't know what my future holds. I don't know how I'll manage, where I'll live, or what will happen when I can no longer work. I don't want to be a burden on my child, and I don't want to spend my final years in fear. But that's the reality I'm facing. If you're young and watching this, I beg you, start now. Don't make the mistakes I did. Save, invest, plan for your future, even if it feels like you have all the time in the world. Because one day, you'll wake up, and the future will be here. If you're in the same boat as me, know that you're not alone. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that talking about this, sharing our fears and ideas, is better than suffering in silence. If you've ever worried about how you'll support yourself in old age, you're not alone. And if you have any advice, any strategies, or even just words of encouragement, leave them in the comments. Maybe together, we can find solutions. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means more than you know. Stay safe, stay strong, and take care of your future, because no one else will do it for you.